Welcome to Watch Symposium. I'm Austin. All right, so wristwatch check first. Still the Widgefield. I checked it today and it was 9 seconds slow. Remember, like a couple days ago, I think it was 15 seconds slow. So really amazing accuracy with it. I'm really surprised. Part of me wants to get it to where it's dead on, but I realize that would likely be 2 weeks from now. It's very surprising how accurate this old watch is. Again, accurate, yes. Consistent, I'm not sure. I think it depends on the resting position, and you can tweak it that way. But I've just been resting it face up. Okay, I have to check, make sure my daughter hasn't been kidnapped every now and then. So, all right, so. Now, yesterday I went to the sports club, did a bit of swimming, and worked out in the gym. And as I was leaving, actually I wasn't leaving, I was just going out in the hall to drink some water from the water fountain. And I was pushing open these big glass doors, and I saw this older gentleman coming. And so I held the door for him, and as he walked in, he put his left hand on the door, and I saw he was wearing an Explorer 1. So I thought, hey, that's a really nice watch, and I kind of wanted to say, nice Explorer, but I didn't want to get in the way of his workout, and I don't know, that's kind of weird just to notice a watch that much. So I held my tongue, I got my water, I went back in, and I started working out, and every now and then I'd look over and I'd watch him working out with his Explorer 1. And of course, seeing something like that gets you to start thinking about something like an Explorer 1 and how that would fit into your collection. So, it's a lovely watch. It's a very minimalist watch. I mean, minimal design-wise and function-wise as well. And it's kind of nice in that regard. Now, I wanted to say it was a 36 millimeter. Looked like it had sapphire crystal. And, I only saw it really for a split second, but, in my opinion, the 36 millimeter is the way to go. I believe it's 39 millimeter is the current version, and it's nice, but it's just a little too big. I don't think you need that kind of size when you don't have a bezel. I think when you have a rotating bezel with a lot of information on it, a 40 millimeter case size is the way to go. But if it's got smooth bezel, I think 36 is really the way to go. So I think he was wearing a 36 millimeter, and it looked just great. It's interesting that he was working out with it. I mean, he wasn't really banging it about, but I thought it was kind of neat that he was using it while he was working out. Not worried about. He wasn't babying it, but again, he wasn't abusing it either. All right, so let's talk about that. Now, I feel like with the sub, I sort of have the, time-only watch, and again, I'm not really in a position to add another piece, nor do I have the desire to add another piece. But I spent the better part of the rest of my workout imagining and thinking about an Explorer, not Explorer 1, I'll just call it an Explorer in my collection, and imagining how I would react to it and how it would fit in. And I have a feeling I wouldn't use it all that much. I say that. I could imagine liking it less than my other pieces, and in that sense it might become my default Rolex beater. I think if you've got 3 Rolexes or 4 or 5, you may identify the one that you are the least protective of and find yourself wearing that the most. That's the case with the Explorer too, and myself. And I think if I were to get an Explorer, I would likely depend on it because I wouldn't be as worried about babying it as my other three, because I think I would like it less than the other three. Would I miss the date? Yeah. I mean, there's always times when I wear the sub that I do need the date, and I do kind of miss it. It makes me appreciate having the date function. But of course, it comes at a cost of aesthetics. So, the Explorer is really interesting in the sense that there's no other function. I mean, it's time and time only. There's no timing function with the bezel. The bezel doesn't do anything extra. I mean, it is really such a minimalist watch, and that's kind of cool. I mean, I like that, and design-wise, and it's nice, a watch that does one thing and one thing only, and hopefully does it well. Now, I've always liked the 3, 6, 9, 12. Well, does it have a 12? Yeah, I think it does have a 12 on the dial. I've always thought that was really nice, and that's part of the reason why I got the Orient Blue Mako, because the Blue Mako has the 6, 9, 12, and it's a little bit sort of it's got that little bit of Explorer element to it, and that's one of the reasons I chose it back when I was getting into watches. So, I think if you're in a situation and you've got sort of high function watches, like a GMT and other watches with say a date function or a moon phase, having a time only watch is kind of nice. So yeah, it was interesting to see it, and I remember thinking, a person asked me once, is Japan a watch heaven? Well, it's a watch wearer's heaven. It really is, in the sense that everybody's sort of on the same page as far as brands here go. We like our brands, some people more than others, but there's no sort of stigma in having an expensive an expensive watch or an expensive bag. People appreciate the brand and quality here in Japan, and I think in the US, people might have a certain reaction to a Rolex, like, you're trying to, you're trying to show off, or, I don't know. I can imagine in the States, there being a subset of people that would make a lot of assumptions about someone wearing a Rolex, and that's something that you aren't going to get here. I of course, when you see somebody wearing any sort of watch, you can't help but make assumptions on, why they chose it, or how much money they might have. But what I'm saying is that there are so many. The idea of buying a brand and, brand name this or that here in Japan, it's just sort of what people do. It's not really, it's very common to see, just regular people with really expensive bags. I remember when I was living in Fukuoka, a couple of times I got into the taxi cab of this woman who had a Louis Vuitton bag, and she would keep it in the front passenger seat. And it was, you could tell that she really liked it, or, well, she, it was like sort of her passenger in a way. And I got it. I understood how it is to be sort of a regular person with something really nice that you appreciate. She probably looks down and she probably says, yeah, it's a beautiful bag. I'm really lucky to have it and I appreciate it. And, pulling her phone from the bag and putting it in, is a joy throughout her, taxi driving day. And it's the same with a watch. It's kind of a small pleasure throughout your day to look down and, as you check the time, to enjoy the aesthetic and to enjoy the fact that you can participate in the Rolex experience and all of the history and quality that comes with it. And that's sort of a mindset that is very prevalent here in Japan. The idea of quality and not going for the cheapest thing, but going for something quality, aesthetically pleasing, something that you like and something worth working for and worth getting. And that's why you'll very often see regular people with Rolexes and regular people with Grand Seikos and regular people with a Gucci wallet, or some people go overboard and they'll deck themselves out in every conceivable type of brand, and but I think there's good balance. If you're into bags, it's a pleasure to have a good bag, and I'm not into any sort of brand except Rolex. Canon cameras and Rolex. That's where it's at, in my opinion. So, what about you guys? Are there any other brands besides Rolex, or aside from Rolex, that sort of you have a special place for? Anyway, take care. Thanks for watching. See you next time.